So in this segment, we're going to be talking about a story that genuinely broke my heart, which is seasonal fruit pickers left thousands of pounds in debt after being sent home early from UK farms. This is, when you read this full story, it's just like, wow. There was not much I could cut from it when I wanted to cover it. It's a really good article from The Guardian. Really great work by Emiliano Molino and Shanti Das. Hopefully I pronounced your name somewhat correctly. Nepali workers hired to pick fruit on British farms say they've been left thousands of pounds in debt after being sent home only weeks after they arrived. The fruit pickers were recruited under the government seasonal worker scheme and say they were offered work for 6 months, but less than 2 months after arriving they were told they were no longer needed and instructed to book flights home. Workers said they had quit jobs to come to the UK and had been left thousands of pounds in debt after borrowing money to cover their flights and fees to third-party job brokers. They also faced steep airline charges to rearrange return journeys. Some of these people gave up everything or gave up a lot to come to the UK to do seasonal work, and they've been screwed. Why they were only needed for a short time could be because they were only needed to pick one or two specific crops on the farms, and once the farms had no use for them, they told them, alright, you're done, see you later. Some of the workers who arrived in September have already gone. September wasn't even that long ago. Others who cannot afford air tickets have been ordered to leave the farm where they were working in Kent, which supplied supermarkets including Tesco's, Co-op and M&S, or face being blacklisted from future jobs. So effectively they were told, if you don't leave now, you're going to be blacklisted. And also the fact that these are major supermarkets using these farm workers effectively, not directly but indirectly. And I think maybe these companies should look at more from the farms that they're buying from, if that makes sense. It sounds like they were misled about how long they would be able to work here for, talking about the seasonal workers. I mean, some only worked for a few weeks. Nepal is a long way away and it costs a lot to get there or get here, plus the visa costs amongst other costs. If you ignore this email and we receive no answer, we will have to cancel your visa and to blacklist you, unfortunately. One email sent to a group of workers by Labour Agency Recruitment on the 4th of November said, which is madness, cancelling someone's visa like that have no rights to stay in this country and they face deportation. AG Recruitment has their head office in the UK, so I do wonder if they have breached any UK employment laws here, but that's just speculation on my part. One worker, Sajit, who I'm assuming his name was changed, said he has sold his shop to come to the UK and still has more than £3,000 in debt to repay, about a year's salary in Nepal. He says, they told us 6 months will be good money for us, but we get less money than we did in Nepal. If we go back, we don't have any work, he said. This person here is much worse off. He'll have no livelihood when he's forced back early to Nepal. There was some sort of breakdown in communication here that they could get a 6-month visa, but they were promised, were they promised 6 months worth of work by someone? Because if that's the case, someone should be held liable here, because some of these people gave up most of what they had just to come and do seasonal work in the UK. No one should have to do that. It should have been up to the farms or the government to subsidise these schemes, given the importance of food security, and having successful farms helps local economies. So the fact that they've had to pay so much in order to do seasonal work, which has massive benefits for the UK, let's not forget. You don't want to be over-reliant when it comes to food on imports. Let's put it that way. The Observer has spoken to 12 people who arrived to pick apples and other fruit in early September and have now been told they must return home early by AG Recruitment, one of the 4 official operators of seasonal workers scheme for the horticulture sector. As many as 60 Nepalese workers are understood to be affected. So there's no way they can claim it's a one-off when it's impacted 60 people. Seems like the farms only need them for a few weeks and they were just done with them. Before Brexit, seasonal EU workers would go from farm to farm as the season passes to pick different fruits and vegetables once they're in season. This system makes sense. Why this was not extended now for seasonal workers makes no sense. All they would have to do is update which farm they're working at. Why the Home Office don't do this or allow this, I don't understand. It just makes sense to change it back to how the kind of system was for EU workers, but then again we had freedom of movement, so they wouldn't have to log it with anyone. But if they create a system where all you have to do is update the agency with which farm you're working at, I don't see the issue. Because this is the agricultural sector, having food security is just very important for any country. The early termination means many are now scrambling for other jobs to help repay the debts they accrued. Some have applied to restaurants and shops but been turned away because they're visa type. Others say they asked AG Recruitment to be sent to other farms but were told no placements were available. Strict visa rules prevent them from working in other sectors or on farms not connected with their original sponsor. Nice to know this stupid rule still exists. I'm surprised that more agriculture workers are not needed because it's winter vegetable season. Most of the boring soup type vegetables, so the other farm stuff is surprising. But even if they were needed, they might not be able to go onto different farms due to the sponsor rule. So I reckon what they were told is they can't move on to other farms or they can't go into other placements because of the sponsorship rule. That's why I think, because we've read stories all year round about farmers being short on staff. There's no way right now they don't need any. When we're heading towards what must be harvest for some sort of fruit or vegetable this time of year. It's ridiculous. I remember reading like things like potatoes are in season this time of year, and who doesn't love potatoes? Genuinely. With no way to work, they face returning home worse off than when they arrived. Manish, who again I'm assuming his name has been changed, whose income supports his children and wife in Nepal, said he had taken out debts of almost £5,000 and still had to pay back more than half. He'll probably start to accrue significant interest and fears the debt will take years to repay. He says, I don't think I'll get my job back in Nepal. If I go back to Nepal in 4 or 5 years, I can clear the loan. It's tragic. Imagine having to work for around 5 years to pay off a loan you took out to help you get to the UK to do seasonal work. Not a full visa or residency, just to come here for 6 months. The system is so broken and it's preying on people who live in developing nations and have very little wealth. Even those workers who did not seek the services of recruitment agencies paid about £1,500 for each plane ticket and visa fees before setting foot in the UK. One said that while he had just about managed to pay off his debts, he could not afford the airline charges, which could be as high as £200 to change his return flight, which has been booked for next year because that's, I'm assuming, when his visa would end. The findings will fuel concerns about treatment of migrant workers under the UK seasonal worker scheme, which was launched to tackle labour shortages in food production and allows people to work in UK farms for a maximum of 6 months. Under the scheme, they cannot stay long-term, claim benefits or bring their families. The government has to reform the system, either make the farm access transferable or to force agencies to make sure they have enough work for people coming over. It's not fair on people being used for a few weeks by farms and then facing deportation because the system is not built for seasonal workers to work for months at a time. There are solutions here, but if the Tories don't take them, then people won't do seasonal work here. The food stays in the ground and you have massive problems. Farmers should also push for reforms. Maybe they're too stupid or short-sighted to see the damage this system is doing. The number of seasonal visas issued by the Home Office each year has surged since their launch in 2019 from 2,500 in the first year to an estimated 40,000 in 2022, including many from outside Europe. But the scheme has been blighted by claims of exploitation, with reports earlier this year alleging some workers from Nepal and Indonesia have been charged steep recruitment fees by third-party job brokers, placing them at risk of debt bondage. And the more these stories get out, the less these people want to come to the UK. And again, this exploiting people, some of them might live in absolute poverty, will feel like they have no choice but to put their lives into people who will charge them a lot for the chance to work in the UK. There is a lot, these are very hard labour-intensive jobs that people are coming here to do, and the UK has to set up protections for these people. Maybe we have to set up recruitment agencies over there if we want to get people here, because the current system is just ripe for exploitation and people are exploiting it. Migrant rights experts say better protections are needed for seasonal workers, including offering guaranteed hours, making it possible for them to seek other kinds of work when farm jobs are not available. It's not fair to expect them to pay out the financial cost of migration without any real guarantee of work during the 6 months they are permitted to work here in the UK, said Kate Roberts, Head of Policy at Focus on Labour Exploitation, Flex. There must be protection against these gaps in the scheme. Anyone who works in the UK should have basic employment rights. This system is very flawed. These agencies should have to make sure that they have 6 months worth of work for people on these visas. The fees paid by the fruit pickers whose placements have just been terminated were largely cash in job hands. Largely in cash to job brokers in Nepal, which are unrelated to AG recruitment. Workers say they paid because the agents guaranteed them a visa and the place on the seasonal worker scheme. AG Recruitment said it was unaware that workers had been charged, them saying we made it extremely clear both during our recruitment process and also in all of our contracts that is against the law for anyone to ask a worker to pay for work, the company said. It also said it had intended to provide 6 months worth of work, but that the nature of seasonal work meant that it could not be guaranteed, adding that workers were informed of this outright during the Zoom discussions. And I'm sure they would publish the minutes of those sorts of Zoom discussions, right? If that's the case, then reforms have to make to the system. I can't imagine that people were told that they would only be on a farm for a few weeks and then would have to figure out what to do next. Something seems off here. If not, it might not be AG recruitment's fault, but the Home Office has to make changes to the system. And here's probably one of the most interesting bits of the story. Documents seen by the Observer show the workers were initially told they would be coming to the UK for work on a farm for 6 months, on a farm, right? But about 10 days before they set out, they were informed this placement had been cancelled and they would now go to a different farm. We don't know who promised the 6 months worth of work and then reneged on it, but if they're UK-based recruiters, then the Home Office and the broader government has to step in here. Because as I said before, there's no way people would come here at great cost, going into debt potentially, just to work in the UK for a few weeks and have no way of paying back this debt. But this was, great reporting from The Guardian. I did not have a ton to add to the article, I think. I hope they look into this a lot more, especially that last bit, but about workers being told they would have guaranteed 6 months of work, only be told that is not the case shortly before coming to the UK. 10 days out, probably have flights booked, everything paid, paid the those recruiters in the local area to get the visa done and find them work, etc. It's tragic, isn't it? And just once again, I'm just going to scroll up quickly just to find the names of the reporters who put out this story. Emiliano Molino and Shanti Das. Huge credit to them, because this is genuinely great reporting. Genuinely great reporting. This is the stuff I love to see. I donate to The Guardian. It's not much, but stories like this are why I genuinely like them. Sometimes they'll post absolute nonsense. But when you do actual, journalism, and you look at what's going on, and you talk about people that are being exploited who don't have a voice, which most people would not care about, I have to respect it. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.